look at this hardware. First part of the build is the Z690 Aorus Master. I originally bought an Asus Maximus Hero Z690, but then the recall came out, so I decided not to take any chances. I sold that board. We are also using the Intel Core i7-12700K. You might be wondering why I didn't go with the i9. Honestly, it was way more expensive. I didn't feel as though I needed it. It's also a super hot chip at 240 watt power draw compared to 190 with the i7. And the i7 is still a 12 core, 20 thread, 5.0 gigahertz chip. I mean, come on, that's insane. For the SSD, we are going with the Western Digital WD Black SN770. This is a mid-range Gen 4 NVMe M.2 drive. This is the 2 terabyte version. I'm becoming a big fan of Western Digital and Crucial. Those are probably my 2 favorite SSD brands. For the RAM, we are going with none other than G.Skill's Trident Z RGB. This is, in my opinion, by far the best looking DDR5 RAM. The kit I went with is the 32 gig 6400 speed RAM. I do later change this though, so stay tuned to the end of the video. For the cooler, I'm going with the MSI Meg Core Liquid S360. I really wanted the Asus Ryogen 2, but it was on back order, so I had no choice. And I'm kind of glad it was on back order because I fell in love with this cooler as I began to use it. For the fans, I'm going with none other than the Lian Li Uni fans. I did splurge a little bit, but they are absolutely beautiful, and I had to work on cable management in this PC because there are so many wires, and this helped a ton. However, I did run into a little bit of a problem with these fans. I can't even use these fans on this AIO because the link that they have on the end right here, you see that little piece that clips? It makes it too big and it hits the hose on the AIO, which means all the little bolt holes don't line up. Like, what? Seriously, that much of a tolerance? That little piece at the end? And they won't fit. I mean, I can configure it the other way, but that means that this thing is going to be hanging out in the front of my PC, and I want it to be in the back. All right, let's see what we can figure out here. Let's see. So Lian Li has literally fixed this exact problem with their version 2 fans. So if you're buying these fans, just make sure to get the version 2s. I'll have them linked below. Now it's time to put everything in the case, and I decided to go with the Phanteks Eclipse P600S. I fell in love with this case when I was searching for cases online, and I thought that this was a black and gray case as it was advertised. However, the gray has some green to it, which I'm not sure if it's coming through on camera. It's not a whole lot, but it does throw off the build a little bit as far as the parts and aesthetic choices that I went with. But we've gone this far, we're gonna rock with it. Time to get everything installed. You might be wondering why the heatsink is off of the M.2, and that's because Gigabyte forgot to put a hole in the heat plate for me to screw down the motherboard. So I had to take that off, screw down the motherboard, and then put it back on. We are definitely not using the stock thermal paste for this build. I did pick up a little tube of Thermal Grizzly thermal paste. Does it work? Is it better? I don't know. I hope so. Everything I watched says so. Time to get the pump installed, and take note of how many wires are coming off this pump. I believe there's a total of 5 of them, and I think it's pretty cool how I was able to get them routed to where you almost can't see them at all. I'll give you a little close up here in just a moment. All right, y'all. So I did some behind the scenes cable management here. Look how clean this looks. You almost can't even see a cable coming off of this pump, and there's 5 different cables that come off. So I was able to take this top panel off, I guess you could say, and that let me get so much more access in here. But take a look at the SATA cable as well as the RGB wires. Both of them are tucked right there behind the heat sinks and then tucked away behind the motherboard. There's 2 of them there. Looks like 1, but there's 2. In fact, there's actually a 3rd wire under there as well, which is the CPU fan cable. And I made that go behind here over to the pump header. Sorry if my camera's going in and out. But you see that? You see the wire right here? Wrapped it around the heatsink underneath those wires. So there's no wires on this side of the AIO. And then take a look at the USB. There's 2 wires that come off of there. Wrapped them right around the heatsink on the bottom. Look at that. Look how clean that is.
Alright, so I had to go with the Asus ROG Thor 1200 watt 80 plus platinum power supply. I mean, everything about this just sounds overkill. Fully modular, it's got the lights, tells you how much you're drawing. Did I need it? Probably not. Is it really cool? Yeah. This is the only used part of this build. The Asus Strix 3090 I picked up for $650. At the time, a year and a half ago, that was a steal. Can you imagine if I did not have the Lian Li fans, how many wires would be back here? I mean, this is already a bird's nest. Can you believe if I didn't have those fans?
This is what the PC looks like. Now, I have not pulled off the plastic yet, and that's because I'm just not done with this build. Number 1, I mean, first of all, look how beautiful it is. But number 1, I did not change the RGB, or I did not install the RGB wire for the power supply, so that's just stuck to red. I gotta fix that. I'm also having a change of heart here when it comes to the cable extensions. These colors do match the build, especially the inside of the PC case, but I do think that all black extensions are gonna look a lot better, so I'm gonna swap those out. I'm also upgrading the RAM. Right now I have 32 gigs of RAM. I'm going to upgrade that to 64 gigs. And the last thing I'm going to do, you saw me install a 2 terabyte main drive in here. I actually put a 1 terabyte in there because I pulled it from my old computer where my Windows install was. The 2 terabyte is under here somewhere. I have since then installed another 4 terabyte drive, so I've got 7 terabytes in the computer, but I'm going to clone that drive over to this. This is a Western Digital SN850X. This is the full speed of Gen 4. This is going to be my main drive. I'm going to clone the 1 terabyte into this one. This will be my main drive. I'm going to keep the other 2 terabyte drive, keep the 4 terabyte drive, so I'll have 8 terabytes total. Now, I also need to do a little cleaning because you see all that dust there, but that's mainly because this guy sits right here every time I'm on my computer. So let's go ahead and make these changes and see what she looks like. Let's go.
How do you think the build turned out? Do you like the changes that I made? Are there any changes that I should make? Any future upgrades you have in mind? By the way, everything that I used will be linked below. And if you made it this far into the video, I appreciate you big time. Stay tuned. I have a lot of videos coming out. And until then, I will see you in the next one. Peace.